Alrighty, everyone. Before we start talking about our lives and stories and everything like that, just wanted to give a little shout out to our Instagram, WFK knows. That's where we do most of our announcements. We're also posting hints to our stories, and if you guess the hint correctly first, you get a free sticker. And also,
really
on the
nice.
note of announcements, we're going to be announcing something really awesome that will pretty much only be for our Instagram. So it's a good time to give us a follow and be really interactive there. Again, it's WFK knows.
You know your life is just a dream, don't you?
Welcome to Who Fucking Knows, a podcast where three friends, a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead, discuss conspiracy theories, murder mysteries, and unknown phenomena that may blow your mind. My name is Angela.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Lexy.
Welcome to Who Fucking Knows.
Yeah.
Is everyone having a good week?
Is it
No,
Monday?
it's just Monday.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Lexy, where are you?
I am on Kauai in quarantine. Hello. So yeah, I, fled California to Hawaii for a bit. So that's where I'll be for who fucking knows how long. Probably like a few weeks. Because I have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So I want to at least enjoy some of my time here out of quarantine.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's a beautiful place.
Where I am. It is.
Yeah,
very-
beautiful place to have to quarantine. It sucks, do you have to, since you're quarantining, does that mean you are just stuck inside the entire time you're going to be there?
Yeah, I literally, so in Hawaii, it's mandatory. So if they catch you outside of where you said you'll be quarantining, they'll arrest you. So yesterday, the National Guard came and checked on me, and I'd, show my ID, and they're like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I feel fine. Leave me alone.
I'm dying.
I think it was some guy I went to high school with.
It was?
I don't recognize. They had a mask on, and I think it was. I'm like, you look very familiar. But maybe they just look familiar. I don't know.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
This week, I found out that for work, I'm going to be going to Arizona next month. Yeah, and my family,
Ooh.
I have family out there on my mom's side, so my mom's actually going to fly with me because she's been scared of, flying alone. So she's going to stay with my grandma and stuff while I'm, doing everything at work. But I was looking into places that I can go while I'm there, and I've been to Sedona before, but I want to go back again, and I was looking into Sedona, and they have UFO tours. So I'm like,
Wait, Sedona has UFO tours?
Yeah.
I love Sedona, and I think you'll like it too, Angela. It's very, hippy-dippy, energy vortices.
yeah, so I'm
It's
gonna-
really nice.
Yeah, I totally want to go and get landscape photos in and and just check out the area because all the red rocks and hopefully see some
Yeah.
aliens. What?
Oh my God, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Right on. I don't have exciting news. The Chargers lost yesterday, and I'm just fucking bitter about it. So it's
Did
fine.
James rub it in your face?
Yes, we were playing James' team, and so so we put a bet at the beginning of the game that if the Chargers win, we get a big Chargers flag and hang it outside, and if they lose, which they did in overtime, which was just so stupid, but hey, it happens. I have a stupid Chiefs flag that's gonna be in the front of my house now
Aw.
For the rest of the season or
until we play them again, and if I win, then my flag goes up, but if he wins, his flag stays.
that's kind of okay. I love that you guys are using the flags because it kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones when a new house takes over. It's poof, their flags go down.
Oh yeah, my house is better fucking gonna be taken over by my boys. Anyway, this is the reason why I'm drinking this week, the electronic bar experience. I have the Fiery Hog, which is what
Ooh.
Angela drank last week. Here's a fun little logo. Angela, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking the Caribbean Cream. It is buttered rum old fashioned. So it's a buttered rum old fashioned. I guess I don't know what buttered rum is, but maybe the description will help me figure that out. So the Caribbean Cream is tropical relaxation. The look starts by elevating Bacardi Oak Heart spiced rum's natural light brown to a rich gold by browning pure Irish butter with Indonesian vanilla beans, nutmeg, allspice, cinnamon, and cloves. The unique sweet and soft vanilla flavors are delicately contrasted with a lightly spiced taste. Its texture is a velvety feel on the palate, resembling a creamy caramel flan. Ooh, I'm excited because of the like cinnamon. I love cinnamon stuff. Let me give it a good shake. So make sure all that cinnamon is mixed up. Oh, do you like the fiery hog? How do you feel about it?
I just took a whiff of it, and
Your
face. It overpowered my senses a little bit. Yeah, I don't think this one's for me.
Can you taste the bacon?
I can taste the bacon, which I do like, and like, I feel like this is for someone who likes old fashions, because I honestly don't. I'm not an old fashioned drinker. I like the Pineapple Princess because it was a little bit on the foofier side of things. This is a little bit more of like I'm fierce and I like these type of flavors. And, like, it's a lot for me to take in right now. But I also drank a shit ton yesterday, so that might be half of it as well. But the Fiery Hog, like, it's got a really good smell and like it's got a good kick to it if that's something you're liking.
Ooh. And yeah. So I'm going to give it a try. I haven't even tried it yet. Let me see.
And you have the Caribbean cream?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's definitely strong. I think I like it better than the Fiery Hog, though. Because the Fiery Hog, I like the bacon of it, but it does have like a thick texture. Do you taste that? And like last time,
it does.
The thick texture kind of threw me off. Like, but I think if it's someone, like you said, who likes old fashions, they would enjoy it more. This is definitely like on the old fashioned end. Like I taste the rum and it is strong, but I feel like it's kind of easier to sip just because the texture isn't as thick.
And again, this is all from the Electronic Bar Experience. You can find them on Instagram, electronic_bar_experience, and you can see their entire line. We really love their sangrias. We're trying their old fashions right now. The last couple of episodes give you a couple of different ideas of what they all taste like, so you can kind of figure out what would be more of your fancy. And so give them a shout out. Look them up. Maybe order something from them. It might be good. It might not be. But hey, I've been happy with all of them. This one's just like different for me.
I think the fun part about it is that it's different, that you're tasting different things, because I think when you're at home, you kind of just drink the same things over and over again. Like you get the one can that you like and you just keep getting that can. So this kind of feels like you're testing the waters and trying something you wouldn't otherwise taste. So yeah.
Give it a shot. Alrighty. So to start us off on the story end, I've got an interesting current event. Let me just bring it up on my phone here. So sorry if I'm looking down while I'm reading it. It's because I'm reading off my phone because my internet on my computer's slow as fuck. Okay. So we're going to just paint a picture here, and I'm just going to read it off from Audi.com. You're walking in a pitch black darkness through the narrow corridors of an industrial-sized hangar. You're sweaty and nauseated as the air is thick with intense heat, humidity, and the stench of rotting meat. But the worst thing of it all is that awful, ever-present noise all around you. It sounds like the pitter-patter of rain, but it's nothing so wholesome. That terrible sound is the scurrying footfalls of a billion palm-sized cockroaches.
Oh, man.
Palm-sized?
Yeah.
Like, as big as my palm?
Palm-sized cockroaches. Yeah, they're big motherfuckers. Okay. What's worse is that this is not a scene from the latest Hollywood horror blockbuster. This is the everyday reality of a cockroach farm. Yes, there are people who farm these revolting pests in China. Cockroach farms are burgeoning business with an estimated 100 farmers active across the country. The farm described is managed by a gentleman and professional bug farmer called Yin Daiyong. His facility is located in eastern China in... I'm not even going to try that one. Just eastern China. On the map, that's roughly halfway between Beijing and Shanghai. And, quote, we have 60 small rooms. There are 20 million cockroaches in each room. In total, there are 1 billion cockroaches in his one facility.
So, do they, like,
I have so many
sell
questions.
them?
Yeah, who buys them?
Like, are they just, is this just, like, a hobby? Like, he's like, oh, I like my roaches, so I'm gonna have fucking, like...
Yeah, what the hell?
How many, like, 120 million? 6 rooms of
1 billion. Every day, the farm's impressively elaborate system of pumps and pipes dumps 50 tons of kitchen waste collected from restaurants onto metal shelves, in case you're wondering where the rotting meat stink was mentioned comes from. And the roaches eat all of it, down to the last scrap, every single day. So essentially, it's their waste management. Instead of having like big landfills filled of rotting food, they just give it to the cockroaches.
Okay.
That
That's
honestly,
cool.
I'm kind of like, all right, that like, you know what? They serve a purpose, and that's probably way better for the environment, and that's cool. Yeah.
Huh.
Have you guys?
Fucking gross.
That reminds me of something that it's kind of random, but I highly recommend that you guys and anyone who's listening check this out. But there's a YouTube channel called Ants Canada, I believe, and it's this guy that has like a bunch of different little ant farms, but he has different species of ants. And the reason why I like this channel is that he narrates it like super. I don't know, it's really funny. Like, he had these little ants that, there's some kind of black ant, and he nicknamed them the bobblehead ants, right? And he one day decided to give him a turtle. So he's like, and how will the ants react to the gods giving them this gift? Like, it's like Ants Canada, check it out. It makes ants highly entertaining, and that's another insect thing.
It's funny.
Beautiful. Well, Lexi, do you want to start us off with your story?
Sure thing. Okay. So, this week, I'm sure both of you have heard of the topic I'm going to talk about. It is an urban legend, a monster, but this monster was generated from the internet. And one time it was a viral sensation. He feeds on fear, stalks you in the night, and even inspired and attempted murder. So this week, I will be talking about Slender Man. Ooh. Insert Slender Man picture here. Bam! There he is in the back.
You
in the back
the fuck out of
in front
me in
all
high
these
school
children.
with Slender Man, Lexi.
I know.
I remember how obsessed you were with it. And I'm
It's
just
so
like,
creepy.
no.
Because, again, it was a creepy pasta, and there's like a fine line. It's like, is this real? It's like, it could be real. And anyways, so, okay. So Slender Man first appeared on this website called Something Awful. It's a forum, and he was in a thread titled Create Paranormal Images. So the first image of Slender Man was a tall, out-of-focus figure next to a tree and was accompanied by the following captions. I'm actually going to pop that picture up again as I read this. So the caption was, one of two recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished, and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. So that was the little caption of this photo that someone photoshopped and put on the forum.
Oh, good old Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing fears to life.
Yep, so the post went viral, and again, the lines were sort of blurred to whether or not it was real. Various people on the internet began sort of adding to the story, and they even gave Slender Man an origin story that traced back to 16th century Germany.
I love that commitment.
Mm-hmm. So as Slender Man's popularity grew, so did the creepy-ass posts and stories about him. So here is another little blurb about Slender Man, and here's another creepy picture. He's in the background with tentacle arms. Yep.
He's always there in the background.
So the Slender Man is a supernatural creature that is described as appearing as a normal human being, but he is described as being 8 feet tall, and he has vectors or extra appendages that are described to be as sharp as swords. The creature is known to stalk humans and cause many disappearances. He is described as a shadow creature that has a missing face. The creature fits into many mythologies and legends from nations such as Germany, which brings up the possibility that he could be real. A man named Victor Surge found this legend and made his own version, of which he called Slender Man. The Slender Man is not exactly evil according to mythology, but Victor Surge's version shows him as an evil creature that stalks humans to kill. In mythology, he was actually trying to save you from a painful death by taking you to the underworld early. So again, he has like all these origin stories and these different theories and whatnot about him.
How old was this person? Do you know how old Victor was?
The person that created him? I think he was just like a middle-aged guy. There was something he said he had like a daughter who like helped him come up with the idea.
Because I wonder, like, if he had some kind of writing background, because, like, to go
Yeah.
that far in and, like, have a whole origin story, like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So one of the creepier things about Slender Man is that he doesn't necessarily directly kill his victims, but rather he'll encourage others to kill people in order to please him. So it's like a psychological horror. So he hunts you, stalks you. He's always there, always watching and waiting. Okay, so that brings me to the next part of my story, which is the Slender Man attempted murder. So on May 31st, 2014, two 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin stabbed a third girl nearly to death. And here are pictures of them. So the girls called their plot Stabby Stab Stab and claimed it was intended as a sacrifice to Slender Man. The girls...
Hold on. I know they're 12, but Stabby Stab Stab?
I know, it's
like,
crazy.
that's the best you could have come up with.
Stabby Stab Stab. Yeah, and like if you see photos of them, they just look like normal 12-year-old girls, but they're
Stab, stab, stab.
monsters.
That's funny.
So essentially, they lured one of their friends or classmates into the woods, and they stabbed her 19 times and left her there to die. So miraculously, this girl survived. She crawled to a nearby bike path and was saved by a passing cyclist. She spent 6 days in the hospital, but again, she survived. And while she was in the hospital, there was a massive manhunt out for these 12-year-old crazies. And then they were finally found with a backpack and the knife that they used to stab the girl. Sorry.
Gosh.
I like hate that we're laughing, but
I know.
Stabby Stab Stab.
Stabby stab stab.
I think I
So-
read about this somewhere. Like, I
Yeah,
read
it
about
happened not too long, 2014.
Yeah.
So allegedly, the two girls planned the attack for months. So in August of 2014, which was a few months after this stabbing happened, Geyser, one of the girls, was ruled incompetent to stand for trial because she was diagnosed with child-onset schizophrenia.
Damn.
But eventually, they did some more evaluations, and they were ruled competent to stand for trial. And at first, they pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. And Geyser's diagnosis stemmed from her belief that she had mind control powers. And she also indicated that she spoke with fictional characters like Voldemort from Harry Potter. So, like, she obviously wasn't completely there, at least at the time. But they were eventually tried as results. So I think by the time, so they committed the crime when they were 12, and then they were tried when they were 15. And by then they were deemed like mentally stable, and they ended up pleading guilty.
I wonder how their parents felt after
God,
that.
I know. I was thinking about that too. Like all of the parents involved, like how awful.
Yeah, like, I wonder, would you be scared of your child at that point? Like, knowing your child is capable of that?
I know. Or would you feel like guilty? Like, oh my God, I raised a little monster, or maybe I should have not let them use the internet. I don't know.
Or not watch Harry Potter and stuff. too.
Yeah.
Excuse me? Harry Potter is
Yeah.
not the problem in
That's
this. Let's make that very, very fucking clear here.
That makes
I am
me, like...
obsessed with Harry Potter and murder, and I don't let those two worlds meet, okay?
I just wonder, because I'm like, I want my kids to watch Harry Potter, but I don't want them to, like, think that Voldemort's talking to them and shit. So, like, how do I establish that? Like, do I have to sit down with them and be like, it's all
Listen,
fake?
sweetie. I don't know.
Well,
It's-
I get criticized for not seeing Hercules as a child. I just watched that movie for the first time like 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
I love that
Really?
movie. I
Yeah,
love
because my mom
Hercules.
didn't want me to believe in multiple gods.
Oh,
So,
so
like,
funny.
Hercules is fucking
weird how,
awesome.
like,
Did you like
parents
it?
work.
Yeah, did you
Oh
like
yeah,
it?
I liked it. It was very cute. It was very, very nice. I like that stylization of Disney in that time period.
Yeah,
so it was
same.
it was a good watch.
Aw. Okay, so as I was saying, they were being tried as adults. They finally pled guilty, especially because there were signs that the attack was premeditated. Because the prosecutors said that Geyser and Weir, the two girls, that's their last names. I don't know their first names. They don't deserve first names.
No.
So they believed that if they sacrificed someone to the Slender Man, that the character would spare the girls' families' lives and then invite the pair to live in his Slender Mansion. So
Why would you want to live with such a creature?
yeah. In a police interrogation, one of the girls described that stabbing her friend, quote, didn't feel like anything. It was like air.
We got a psychopath.
I know. So the girl that said that, Geyser, was sentenced to 40 years in a mental hospital, and the other girl was sentenced to 25 years in a mental hospital. And again, here are their little faces for one more time. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so who fucking knows what got into them, if it was actually Slender Man or if it was just, the influence of the internet.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder, the girl who survived, I wonder if, like, that's kind of a crazy story. Like, when you're older, you're like, yeah, like, someone tried to fucking murder me,
It's traumatizing. Like, where are they now? So if they were 12 in 2014, it's 2020. So they're 18 now.
21?
Oh, yeah, 20.
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
21.
20.
Wait.
No.
12. 20,
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Okay.
18.
You guys, I said it, but I wasn't completely confident, and you guys.
We can't do math. It's fun.
Math in public is hard.
Yes.
On the spot, go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like throwing numbers out. That's what.
Yep.
Wow. Trippy
Anyways,
story.
that is my story for you. It was a quickie, but a classic and super fucking creepy and sad. Don't let your kids
At least no one
go on the
died.
internet. No one died.
No
Yeah.
one died.
So.
Well, I got
what I
something
got.
that has a little bit of a different vibe to it.
Okay.
Someone does die.
Oh no.
Oh.
But I'm going in more of an Angela story direction
What?
because it's got some government
Oh.
conspiracies and shit. So
Look at
let's-
I
you.
like this kind of
Buckle
stuff.
in.
I'm excited.
So I'm going to introduce you to Joseph Daniel Casolaro, which is also known as Danny, and that's how I will refer to him. Here are a few photos of him. He was born into a Catholic family in McLean, Virginia, one of 6 children. He was born June 16th, 1947. He attended Providence College until 1968 and married Terrell Pace, former Miss Virginia. And I didn't put in what year, so, she was just Miss Virginia at one point.
Nice.
They had a son together, Trey, they got a divorce when he was 10, and Danny got full custody of Trey. Danny's interests were amateur boxing, writing poems and short stories, and raising purebred Albanian horses. He also dabbled in journalism, taking more fascination in it in the late 1990s. So in the 1990s, he started looking into the Inslaw case, Iran-Contra, the alleged October Surprise conspiracy, and the closure of Bank and Credit and Commercial International, BCCI. Any of these sound familiar to either of you?
I don't think so.
Not
no.
really, but kind of. I think I might know about this story, but continue.
I feel like all of these are something that we should have learned a little bit about because of the government's just so fucking wacky and shit. But, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of each of these, and starting with the Inslaw. So, Inslaw began as a nonprofit organization called the Institute for Law and Social Research. The institute was founded in 1973 by William A. Hamilton to develop case management software for law enforcement office automation. Inslaw developed a program called PROMISE. And it's an acronym for Prosecutors Management Information System for use in law enforcement, record keeping, and case monitoring activities. So it's pretty much like a giant cloud, the beginning of a cloud of putting all this data in so that you can take it, but it also has a monitoring system to it as well, which is a little iffy that we'll get into. So in 1979, the Department of Justice contracted with the Institute to do a pilot project in 4 U.S. attorney offices. It went on so well that in 1981, the DOJ decided to go ahead and place them in the 20 of the largest U.S. attorneys' offices. So, everyone here is like, whoa, it's doing pretty good, huh? This all seemed to be fine until Hamilton was like, the creator was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And the DOJ was like, well, you made this program when working for us, so we own it and we can still use it. And Hamilton was not happy about that and started the sue. them, which led into a 12-year battle of legal proceedings.
Jeez.
And so it was the main thing, and the main takeaway from all of this is that that Inslaw accused the DOJ, the Department of Justice, of conspiring to steal its software, Promise, and trying to use the stolen software for covert intelligence operations against foreign governments and involvement in a murder. So they were like putting them on the spot, saying that they did a bunch of really bad things with this, and all these accusations were eventually rejected by the special counsel and the Court of Federal Claims. But again, it took 12 years, and it's still really iffy on whether or not the software was used to kind of abate murder and a couple of other crazy things that you can look up on your own if you want. So now the Iran-Contra. A political scandal in the United States that occurred during the second term of the Reagan administration from 1985 to 1987. The senior administration officials secretly facilitated the sale of arms to Khomeini, I probably didn't say that right, government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was the subject of an arms embargo. No bueno. The official justification for the arms shipments was that they were part of an operation to free 7 American hostages being held in Lebanon by Hezbollah, a paramilitary group with Iranian ties connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The plan was for Israel to ship weapons to Iran for the U.S. to resupply Israel to pay the U.S., and then that would result in people being free. The Iranian recipients promised to do everything in their power to achieve the release of the hostages. The first arms sales authorized to Iran was in 1981, prior to the American hostages being taken. So it makes no fucking sense as to why there would be this deal, because the first purchase of these guns happened before the hostages were taken.
Ooh.
Let that just sink in for you.
Yeah, that's
really sketchy. That's like, sounds like things are planned, and we're just, yep.
Over the next few years, there were a lot of back and forth of saying this wasn't happening, then to admitting that it did happen. Investigations were fruitless because large volumes of documents relating to the affair were destroyed or withheld from investigators by the Reagan administration officials. This is a big deal. It is all over the Times magazines, the Daily News. It was a big affair happening. And the affair was investigated by the U.S. Congress and by the 3-person Reagan-appointed Tower Commission. So it was investigated, yes, but half of the team were part of the team that were doing all this bullshit. So in the end, 14 administration officials were indicted. 11 convictions resulted. Those indicted or convicted were all pardoned in the final days of the presidency of George H.W. Bush, which was in 1993. And fun fact, he was the vice president at the time of all of this affair. And he's the one who pardoned everyone who was proven to have their hands dirty in it.
Well, the U.S. government always, covering their asses,
Typical.
you know?
Angela's like, tell me about it.
So a little bit before the Iran-Contra affair, there was this October surprise.
Ooh.
And in November of 1979, 60-plus U.S. hostages were captured in Iran during the Iranian Revolution. The Iran hostages crisis continued into 1980. As the November 1980 presidential election approached, Carter's second term versus Reagan's first, there were concerns in the Republican Party that a resolution to the crisis can constitute an October surprise, which might give Jimmy Carter enough an electoral boost to be re-elected. So essentially, since October is the month prior to election month, which is funny because we're rolling into that time of the year as well, is that like maybe something big will happen that will push either candidate up and beyond. And if you think of it like
October
now,
surprise, we can't handle that this year.
COVID-19, if that were be solved, that would propel one of the candidates maybe to like win. So it's just kind of crazy to see this, right?
History repeating itself.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Instead of 20 hostages, we have a pandemic.
Yeah.
So Reagan ended up winning the election. On the day of his inauguration, in fact, just minutes after he concluded his 20-minute inaugural address, the Islamic Republic of Iran announced the release of the hostages that they had been holding for over a year. The timing gave rise to an allegation that representatives of Reagan's presidential campaign had conspired with Iran to delay the release until after the election to thwart Carter from winning.
Wow.
And that, my dear friends, is an October surprise.
That's like,
yeah.
so, I don't know. That kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. Because you think about it, it's like people are always pulling strings like that. And it's like politics.
People in
they don't
power.
care. Yeah, they don't care about life. They care about formalities and trying to, like, create an image. Yeah.
And the money and the power and... God, people suck.
Here's a little piece of propaganda that was used. That it shows like Reagan on the computer on the TV set, and it shows like someone sitting behind it pretending to be Reagan, holding off an arms payoff for the hostages to Iranian. And so it's kind of like, since it happened so quickly after he was, officially had the role, all of a sudden these people were out, which is like, great, I'm happy the hostages were out, but timing in particular is something to question. According to the allegation, the Reagan administration rewarded Iran for its participation in the plot of supplying Iran with weapons via Israel and by unblocking Iranian government monetary assets in U.S. banks. After 12 years of varying media attention, both houses of the U.S. Congress held separate inquiries and concluded that the allegations lacked supporting documentation. So essentially it was again like, I don't see anything that would make sense for it to be a real thing, so we're just gonna say that it didn't actually happen.
Prove it.
Yeah.
And then the last major kind of political thing that was going on that happened kind of later 80s, but all of this was happening right when our homeboy Danny was starting to get interested in journalism again, just as a cliff note. Little thing there. So I'm going to talk about BCCI, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. And this is like mega cliff notes because this thing goes on forever. There's a lot of shit about it and everything. Here's the logo for it, but major cliff notes. So pretty much everyone...
I feel like they do that on purpose. They make things so fucking long because it's like, who really wants to learn about all this shit, you know?
So true,
like, they're like, normal people won't read the fine print and stuff. But we're not normal. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. So pretty much everyone with a brain thought that this bank was shady as fuck. So much so that it was nicknamed Bank of Crooks and Criminals by so many bankers. However, it took several years for things to be discovered, and boy, were things discovered. The article that I got the gist of this info was from 1991, and a quote from one of the BCCI auditors said, "It was probably one of the most complex deceptions in banking history." Again, it went all over the news, Times Magazine, the Tampa Tribune, everything went into it. BCCI made phony loans, canceled deposits, hid huge losses, and it was a host of shady customers ranging from terrorists and spies to drug runners and dictators. So, yeah, again, not a good bank. Definitely don't want to be associated with this in any sort of way possible.
Nope.
So all of this was hot topic when Danny started getting back into investigative journaling. He had been looking into all of these things and boasting that he was nearly ready to reveal a wide-ranging conspiracy involving all of those cases I just went over. So now we're going back into Danny's life. It's August 6th, 1991. A neighbor of Danny's and long-term housekeeper Olga helped Danny pack a black leather tote. She remembers him packing a thick sheaf of papers into a dark brown or black briefcase. Danny said he was leaving for several days to visit Martinsburg, West Virginia, to meet a source who promised to provide an important missing piece to his story. This was the last time Olga ever saw him. Olga told the Village Voice that she answered several threatening telephone calls at Danny's home that day. She said that one man called at around 9 a.m. and said, quote, "I will cut his body and throw it to the sharks. Less than an hour later, a different man said, quote, drop dead. There was a third call, but Olga remembered only that no one spoke and that she heard music as though a radio were playing. Fourth call was the same as the third, and a fifth call, this one silent, came later that night. Creepy.
Man. Phone calls.
So, yeah. Now we have caller ID.
Yeah.
At about noon on August 10th, 1991, housekeeping staff discovered Danny's Danny's body naked in the bathtub of room 517. His wrists had been slashed deeply. There were 3 or 4 wounds on his right wrist and 7 or 8 on his left. Blood was splattered on the bathroom wall and floor, and according to Ridgway and Vaughn, the scene was so gruesome that one of the housekeepers fainted when she saw it. Which, like, any dead body, I think everyone has a solid reason to be scared and, like, faint and have a reaction to.
Yeah.
But not
So
pleasant.
much blood. Ugh. Oh.
Under Danny's body, paramedics found an empty Milwaukee beer can, 2 white plastic liner trash bags, and a single-edged razor blade. There was also a half-empty wine bottle nearby. Ridgway and Vaughn write that nothing was placed in the bathtub drain to prevent derbies from draining away, and none of the bathwater was saved. Other than the gruesome scene, the hotel room was clean and orderly. There was a legal pad and pen present on the desk. A single page had been torn from the pad and a message written on top of it. To those who I love the most, please forgive me for the worst possible thing I could have done. Most of all, I'm sorry to my son. I know deep down inside that God will let me in.
So they made it look like a suicide?
That sucks because, like, his family, the fact that he has a son and everything, like, that's dirty. You know?
And they knew he had a son? Like, was he in the public eye? Or how did they know he had a son?
Maybe he said, maybe it was known that he had a son because he talks about him all the time. Like, I know my dad talks about me and my sisters all the freaking time to a bunch of strangers.
Plus, it's like,
so
the freaking, like,
know
government could fucking dig into anyone they wanted to, you know?
That's true. It's fine.
Sketch.
So, based on the note, the absence of a struggle, no sign of a forced entry, and the presence of alcohol, police judged the case as straightforward suicide. After inspecting the scene, they found 4 more razor blades in their envelopes in a small package. Police interviews further revealed that no one had seen nor heard anything suspicious from the, like, 2 rooms next door and from above and stuff like that.
Okay, very quick, I had a kind of out there thought about all this, about the government kind of being able to know things about you, and nowadays with technology and different listening devices, like your phones are listening to you, Alexa's listening to you and stuff like that, it's like that kind of gives them the capability of making things sound like you more, or like knowing what you've been up to and shit like that. That just, I'm sorry, I just had that thought and I had to share it because
getting rid of you and making it seem like they didn't do it.
Yeah, like they actually like could know you, so that the people who do know you can't really decipher. Okay, yeah, all right. Taylor, continue.
God.
That was just a thought that I had to share because that kind of creeped me the fuck
I
out.
don't like that. But it's a
Epstein
good
didn't
point.
kill himself. Just saying.
Yeah.
So, the investigation. The first autopsy was performed on Danny's body at the University of Virginia on August 14th, 1991. The coroner determined that blood loss was the cause of death and that death had occurred from 1 to 4 hours before the body was discovered, or roughly between 8 and 11 a.m. on August 10th, which is really interesting that the death was so, like, soon after discovery, because I feel like a lot of the time it happens and then the body just sits and it's been like hours on end, or like maybe even days until it's been found. So
Yeah,
I thought that was
that
just
is
interesting.
like they happen to check it out.
How convenient.
Yeah.
Damn.
So after Danny's death was reported by several mainstream news organizations, police re-examined room 517. The adjacent rooms had been rented the evening of Danny's death, one by Mike Looney, the other by an unnamed family. No one reported hearing anything unusual either on the night of August 9th or the morning of August 10th. In January 1992, about 5 months after Danny's death, Dr. Frost of the Virginia State Medical Examiner's Office performed another autopsy. He returned a second suicide verdict, citing blood loss as the cause of death. But remember, there was no, like, bath water in the tub or anything left over because there was no stopper to stop, like, the water going through. I just wanted to put that out there. I don't really know why, but I put that there. I did these notes like a week and a half ago.
So you're like, that's something just throw out there and you guys can put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Side note.
He returned a second suicide verdict, citing blood loss as the cause of death. Frost said there was evidence of the early stages of multiple sclerosis, but the degree of severity was probably minor. Toxicology and analysis uncovered traces of several drugs, antidepressants, acetaminophen, and alcohol. He wrote, quote, "There was nothing present in any way that could have incapacitated Danny, so he would have been incapable of struggling against an assailant, let alone been sufficient to kill him." Ron Rosenbaum, a journalist acquaintance of Danny's, speculated in Vanity Fair that Danny may have intended his suicide to appear to be murder triggered by his research in order to have others look into the stories after his death.
Wow.
Later, investigations showed that the FBI misled Congress about investigating Danny's death. Members of an FBI task force looking into Danny's death questioned the conclusion of suicide and recommended further investigation. This level of doubt, quote, was especially significant because even at the time, December of 1992, it was clear that to express those views risked one's own judgment by being called into question. FBI documents show that some files on Danny are being withheld from public release, which is contradicted by the FBI saying that the files are missing entirely. So, like, some of his research that he was looking into was missing or not being, like, shared with the public. And
That's how
FBI
you know.
people were
Like,
feeling
that's
like it should be looked into, but didn't want to, like, the finger be turned on them. Like...
Huh.
Woo! So
That's-
who fucking knows
wow.
what caused his death? If it was suicide or the government or something else.
I
But
vote government.
that's what I got for you.
I vote government as well.
I feel like
Yeah.
when there's when it's clear that they didn't make a complete effort to investigate it, or they went kind of a way around it where things seemed intentionally not looked into, I think that's a dead giveaway of they don't want us to find something. And
Yes.
and it sucks because like we can't do anything about that.
I know. God. What a bummer.
Yeah. Angela, what do you have for us this week?
Well, for my story. So, I have had this topic on my topics list for a while, and I was thinking, like, okay, creepy things that people hear on the radio, right? Because in my mind, I had heard of some story a long time ago about this town that if you drive through it, you can hear radio signals from like the 20s or some shit. So that's what I was expecting to find. And I was like looking into that. Maybe one day in a future episode, I'll cover whatever that was because that was like a fascinating story. But instead, I came across something called numbers stations. Do you know what those are?
I've never heard of them.
Nope.
Yeah. So number stations are shortwave radio stations that have dumbfounded listeners for years. A number station is an unregistered illegal radio broadcast set to a specific frequency that is designed to transmit secret information to spies or other operatives in the field through sophisticated codes and utilizing everything from voices, buzzes, beeps, clicks, and other noises to Morse code, sound clips from TV programs or movies, and music. To the average listener stumbling across one of these stations, it may appear that it's all just noise and nonsense, but to a spy in the field, it all makes perfect sense. If a citizen turns into a number station, hears a load of gibberish, and changes the channel, then the station is doing its job well. The transmitted codes are highly encrypted and are of the most unbreakable. They are cheap to send and receive and can be picked up over a large range. And since radio waves are being used, it is very difficult to pinpoint where the source lies. Transmitted since World War I, number stations are shrouded in mystery that governments do not even acknowledge that they exist at all. So, have you ever heard of that? Like, I didn't know that they existed until I Googled creepy things that you hear on the radio.
That's so interesting. What the hell?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about like a few kind of known number stations or number stations that people I don't know, have come across over the years. So there's one called the E9 Magnetic Field Station. So each transmission from the station began with the rendition of a composer, John Michael Jarre's Overture Abrogator. From there, the statement 44D was repeated twice, followed by the statement again. Each transmission then ended with a repeat of the same song. Both of the statements were spoken in Arabic. Though the station is now inactive, a lot of fabulous folklore still surrounds it. Many believe that the origin of the station was an Algerian intelligence organization. So what the fuck does that mean? You know, like some random song, Overture Abrogator. Maybe I'll insert like a little clip of the song that was playing. And then it was like 44D, again. That's, I don't know.
Just like randomly.
Randomly.
That's creepy.
So it's like, what does that mean? You know?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
What
The
does
next one.
spies say?
Tits that big?
Yeah, so what? The next one is called the
No.
Backwards Music Station, aka Whale Song. So the Backwards Music Station has been picked up by international shortwave listeners for decades. By the way, when they say international shortwave listeners, there's like a group of people who love this kind of shit and have like listening to frequencies and like to like do research on it and try to track down the source and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, so ironically, it doesn't actually play backwards music, nor does it play whale songs. However, typical reports from listeners have likened to the sounds of whale mating calls or records playing backwards. No one knows for sure who's responsible for the station, but there are a few working theories. So the backward music station has been picked up so many times, but some believers that believe that the radio signals originate from the U.S. naval bases on the southern coast. This is because the frequencies are similar to naval frequencies, and some reports have speculated that the station is in Virginia Beach, Jacksonville, or Florida. Others believe that the radio signals originate from England, where the frequency strength is relatively strong. The third theory is that the whale song signals are actually transnational communications that employ Lin complex. Lin complex is a unique form of signal communications employed by both defense and commercial industries, which I'm like I feel like it might be like the U.S. Navy for some reason, like a little like war shit going on, you know? Another
Who
thing I was
fucking knows?
reading up on about these is that sometimes they will keep a station where it has like the backwards music and the whale song. They might just be playing that on a loop or continuously play frequencies or like sounds so that no one else can take over that frequency. So that way it's like theirs, and then if they need to send a message, they can send a random clip, and it's like who's gonna listen for like 4 or 5 seconds other than the person that needs to hear it, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to be like extremely lucky just to come across like
Or dedicated.
yeah, extremely lucky or dedicated.
Yeah.
Whale sounds all day.
So the next one is Attention Cuban Station. I just thought
I
of
was
like
waiting
Dory.
for Taylor to make a whale sound.
Secretly Dory inside.
So the next station is Attention Cuban Station. So following the Cold War, it was easy to access this station where the automated voice of a woman speaks in Spanish. The fact that it's an automated voice kind of makes you think of like a utopian, like creepy, you know? So the woman keeps repeating the same list of Spanish numbers over and over in a monotonous tone before eventually switching to a new list. Monotonous? I guess so. It's like,
Monotonous.
it's a tone. Monotonous.
Monotonous.
There's Lexy coming in with her grammar or whatever.
Words are hard.
I'm going to just take a
Lucky
sip of my
guess.
drink, you know? Watch someone correct us and we're all wrong.
I know. I feel like you fucking
Well,
idiots.
Eric from work loves to do that. He's like, oh my goodness, you guys can't speak. I'm like, yeah, but you still listen.
Yeah. Eric, tell us
Still
what
love
this word
us.
is. We need help. So anyways, this tone that doesn't change, it eventually switches to a new list. So It's known as atención because every transmission begins with the Spanish word atención. Many believe that the station is Cuban in origin because on multiple occasions, Radio Havana audio sounds would be mixed in with the number repetitions. This supported the idea that atención is a spy station used by the Cuban government, possibly for communication between Cuban spies living in the U.S. as refugees and their Cuban counterparts. So,
That is so interesting.
I
want to
kinda
find
wonder-
one. I want to listen.
Yeah. I also wonder, like, how does one become a spy? You know? Like, I feel like they find you and recruit you rather than you finding them. But it's like, how? Maybe that could be my goal, to get abducted by aliens and recruited as a spy.
It's gonna happen in Sedona.
I feel like
Manifest
There we
it.
go.
I feel like this podcast probably takes me out of the...
I know, they're like,
nope.
she's on the list. She's
Yeah.
on to us.
The blacklist.
So the next station I have is called the Lincolnshire Poacher Station. So from the 1970s until 2008, the Lincolnshire Poacher Station was one of the most consistent stations discovered. The namesake of this radio is an English folk song that plays as a single interval. The song is followed by a 10-minute call signal. The creepy rendition of the folk song and the subsequent call signal are produced by an electronic female voice with a British accent, which I'm like, throw in a British accent,
Nice.
and then it's like goes from like utopian to like hundreds of years in the future utopian, because I feel like AI and Siri, is Siri British? I don't know.
She can
You
be if
can.
you want her
You
to
make
be.
them.
I imagine it sounded like Siri, British Siri, you know? So,
Wasn't your phone like Australian for the longest time, Lexy? I feel
Probably.
like that was a thing in high school.
that's funny.
Sucker for those accents.
So, the prevailing view is that this station was operated by the British Secret Intelligence Service and broadcasted from a Royal Air Force base in Cyprus. Considered one of the last true Cold War relics, the station went off air without warning in 2008. The station's message system was so complicated that for almost 40 years, it sent out messages that could be divided into 200 separate groups, and each group was replayed daily. So it like had 200, possibly 200 spies that they were sending messages to daily. That's like,
Jeez.
and the fact that in
That's
2008
crazy.
it just kind of disappeared out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? Did it just, did it just end? Did someone like kill all the spies? Like, maybe there's some kind of like James Bond shit going on in the background that we don't
Yeah.
understand.
They completed the mission and they're like,
Yeah.
we don't need this anymore.
Yeah, radio station just
Disappear.
explodes. Okay,
Whoa.
this one was one of my favorites because I don't know, it seems interesting. This one's called the Yosemite Sam Station. Do you guys know who Yosemite Sam is?
That sounds so familiar.
I think he's
Is
with.
it like Yogi the Bear type of thing?
No, I think he's like a Looney Tune. I'll pop up a picture here. So Yosemite Sam, he was like the Looney Tune that I believe had like the red mustache. It was all big and he had a big old barrel.
Oh,
yes.
So
How did I not know that?
this station has only been in operation since the early 2000s. Each broadcast starts and ends with repeated records of the cartoon character Yosemite Sam saying, "Varmint, I'm gonna blow you to smithereens."
A plus. A plus.
Great. That's
So-
so weird.
So, like
Very
clockwork, the Yosemite Sam station starts every 7 seconds following the top of the hour. The transmission is then followed by a data burst that is repeated in ascending order of 4 different frequencies, and 10 seconds go by before the repeat of the transmission. The complete process takes around 2 minutes. So, you know how earlier I was saying that there's like these people that dedicate their time to looking up shortwaves and stuff. Well, there was a couple radio guys who were investigating this signal and actually traced it to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to a U.S. Army base known as MATIC, which is the Mobility Assessment Test and Integration Center. So they tested like military systems, and once they traced it, it stopped. So that's
They're
like,
like, we've been caught.
and it's kind of weird because it's like freaking like the military sending out little shortwaves saying that I'm gonna blow you to smithereens. Like, I wonder if the person just had like a sense of humor, or if this was like some kind of code to be like, do you know what? Pull the fucking trigger.
Yeah, what the heck? That's so interesting.
Yeah. So the next one is the Swedish Rhapsody Station. So the Swedish Rhapsody Station is actually a German station that transmits an eerie, almost childlike voice. It emerged in the 1970s and disappeared in 1988. Transmissions began with a tune that sounded like a music box version of the first few bars of Swedish Rhapsody number 1. I'll put a little thing right here. And this version plays for 5 minutes straight and is followed by 3 separate 5-figure messages that are repeated 3 times in sequential order. Following this intro, there is 3 100 group messages and 1 50 group message, with each group messaging being reported twice. It's dumbfounding to say the least. I don't know where the child voice comes into there. Maybe the messages that are portrayed are like in a children voice, which is kind of creepy. I don't know. So
Don't like.
yeah, not anything with a child voice is like, not gonna touch that. If I turned that radio station, I heard that, I'd probably change it. So you know what, goal achieved. So when you look up, if you were to Google number stations, this last one will probably be one of the ones that pops up. It was for me. I guess it's one of the most well-known one, and it's called the UVB 76 buzzer station. So the UVB 76 is the most famous and elusive station in history. People believe the radio signal has been in existence since the 1970s, but the earliest recording was made in 1982. The station transmits a repeated buzzing sound that plays almost endlessly, only occasionally being interrupted with an eerie Russian voice that recites a mix of Russian names and numbers. The purpose of the UVB 76 buzzer station has never been revealed. Regardless of events occurring in Russia, including the end of the Afghan War and the fall of the Soviet Union, UVB 76 has continued to do its thing. So that one, I'm curious because I wonder if it's like a hit list, you know? Like naming all these names and numbers. And I think it's interesting.
And are they different names and numbers every time, or are they the same ones?
I think it's different ones. Like, I think I don't know.
Well, even if they were the same, if it's the numbers, you could look at it like the number. They're saying a slot of names and then a bunch of numbers, it'd be like 3. Okay, that's the third letter in the first name and so forth. And
right,
you can figure out a message from there.
That's true. That's really true. But yeah, so
Taylor, are you a Russian spy? What the hell?
I know Taylor seems to know an awfully lot about
like,
this.
It's the third number, letter, whatever.
I like puzzles.
But that's my story. Who fucking knows what all these stations are? Yeah, and I only covered a few. There are a lot of them, which is kind of mind-boggling because that was the first time I ever heard of them. Looking into this, I did not expect to find this when I originally went in with like a topic idea. So that was kind of cool.
How do you find them to listen to them? Like, can you do it on the internet, or do you need like a radio or like a police radio or something?
You can actually do it online. There's a lot of the articles that I found these stories from had like a, hey, listen to it with this link here, and you can like tune into the radio frequency.
That's probably gonna be a quarantine activity of mine.
Excellent.
Yes.
Well, before we start reading our cards, I just want to give you a little reminder that we're on Patreon. So if you want to throw us a little tip for what we're doing, or if you want to commandeer one of our topics, make us drink or take a shot, it's where you can do it. Mm-hmm. It's Who **KEN knows on Patreon. Definitely take it a look.
By the way, guys, I'm the only one who hasn't had a drink or a shot yet, so... I mean,
I'll have to donate.
All right, and now I'm going to pull our card. All right. So, for those of you who do not listen to us frequently, every episode, whether it's a main or a mini, I pull a card. For a main, I pull an oracle card. For a mini, I pull a tarot card. And you can take this message as you will. Maybe you're going through something and you have a question. If you have that question, think of it now. And maybe this card will provide an answer, or maybe it'll just be about our episode. I don't know. But I'm going to shuffle my deck.
You take it as you will.
Yeah. So let's see. What card do we have this week? What do you need to release? It's the waxing moon. So let me just, boom, show that in our, sorry, I'm like putting on my camera.
I was like, I don't see it.
Yeah, sorry guys. Here you go.
Thank you.
So it says, what do you need to release? And it's actually the waning moon. Sorry, not a waxing moon. My bad. Let's see. It says, the waning moon points to what's falling away. Life goes in cycles, and sometimes we need downtime or to let go. No matter when in the moon cycle you pull this card, it's a sign that a situation has peaked, for the better or worse, and it's time for you to go easier. It's autumn and winter of the cycle. So what do you need to release? Almost certainly something from the situation you're asking about. This card can be very positive, but it can still be gently suggesting that you need to let something go and stop trying so hard. Attuned to the moon says it's safe to let go and move on. Additional meanings for this card: move forward with as little resistance as possible. This is not the time to start new projects. Releasing emotional baggage is recommended now. Say sorry to someone. Do energetic work such as meditation or yoga, and soon you'll see what lies ahead. I like that. So
I like that too.
That's good.
if you have anything you're holding on to, just let it go, man. It's holding you down.
Get rid of that emotional baggage.
Yeah.
Yes.
When one door
need
closes,
that.
yeah, when one door closes, 5 of them open. So, yeah.
And if you're me, you still run into it because you don't know if it's a push or a pull.
I love
And
that.
on that note, friends, we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.